Welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a story that, honestly, it sort of flips the usual Silicon Valley script on its head. We usually think hypergrowth, scaling really fast means you kind of have to play fast and loose with user data, velocity first, privacy maybe later.
Right, the classic trade-off assumption.
Exactly. But we're looking at a company, a hyper-local social network called CitySpeak, that achieved this almost unbelievable 980% surge in daily active users.
Yeah, it's a huge number. We're talking going from about 15,000 DAU up to 162,000.
In just 4 quarters.
Just 4 quarters. And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
They did this while their entire system was built around really strict data privacy principles.
Principles baked into the core architecture, right? They were operating on what they call Web 4.0 infrastructure.
That's right. Specifically using the decentralized setup provided by Linkspreed Technologies, the whole platform hosted on what they refer to as Web4.community.
Yeah.
Data sovereignty was paramount.
Okay, so that's the core puzzle. Massive growth plus hardcore privacy. Our mission today, for us and for you listening, is to unpack how they pulled this off.
It really comes down to how they used AI, specifically an internal tool they built called the Insight Navigator.
And this tool didn't just manage the compliance burden, it actually turned that perceived bottleneck into a strategic advantage. It gave them speed because of the architecture, not despite it.
Precisely. They turned a hurdle into a launchpad.
So let's set the scene first. This commitment to privacy, using Linkspeed's Web4.community platform, wasn't just a feature for CitySpeak, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. It was their entire brand, their core identity. They deliberately chose this decentralized, event-based architecture.
Why? What was the promise?
The promise was true data sovereignty. Users actually owned their data, controlled it. That was the appeal in the Web 4.0 context. But like any cutting-edge tech, it came with strings attached.
Technical overhead, as the sources call it.
A significant technical overhead, and that immediately created a problem for their internal teams.
Let me guess. Strategic slowness, the classic issue.
You got it. Think about it. If your database is fundamentally designed for resilience, for guaranteeing ownership across many nodes, for bulletproof compliance on this decentralized Web 4.community structure.
It's probably not built for whipping up quick business reports.
Exactly. It's inherently not optimized for rapid, complex business intelligence queries. The sources called it the decoupling of data and agility, which sounds academic, but it was a real practical problem.
So paint a picture for us. You've got these teams, product, marketing, data science, sitting on potentially incredibly valuable data, all generated within their own CitySpeak network.
Proprietary, high-integrity behavioral data, the kind competitors could only dream of.
But they can't easily get their hands on the insight.
Right. Accessing meaningful, complex insights was becoming a severe operational bottleneck. The Linkspreed database, because it was event-based, likely using something like MongoDB aggregation pipelines under the hood.
Okay, maybe break that down a bit for folks not knee-deep in database tech. What did that mean day to day?
It meant simple questions became painfully slow to answer. If you're on a standard Web 2.0 setup, maybe a centralized SQL database, you run a query, boom, you get an answer in minutes, maybe seconds.
Select count from users where.
Standard stuff. But analyzing this decentralized, event-based system on Web 4.community, oh boy. To get multi-layered insights, you have to stitch together data from potentially dozens of different event streams or collections. It required writing complex, often very long scripts.
Okay, so it wasn't just a bit slow, it was fundamentally harder to ask sophisticated questions.
That's the core of it. It turns strategic inquiry into a Sisyphean task, truly.
Give us an example. What kind of question would grind things to a halt?
Okay, here's a really critical one for any social network. Understanding what keeps people around. Their data science team needed to know exactly which 3 non-obvious feature combinations drive a 180-day retention rate above 60%.
That sounds vital.
Yeah.
And hard.
Incredibly hard on their system. Answering that wasn't a quick query. It meant days, literally days, of crafting these intricate multi-join queries or massive aggregation pipelines. They had to correlate specific feature usage events, define user cohorts accurately, track retention over 6 months, all across this complex Linkspreed backend.
3 days to answer a basic retention question. Wow. While users are signing up faster and faster.
Exactly. You're strategically paralyzed. By the time you get the answer, the user behavior might have already shifted. You're lagging dangerously behind your own growth curve.
And this wasn't just about product features, right? It affected marketing, too.
Absolutely. Think about localization, which was key for CitySpeak. They needed to know things like, what's the precise demographic profile using the service requests feature in the suburbs of City A, but not using it in City B.
Super specific, location-based insight.
Right, and essential for targeted growth or feature rollouts. But again, getting that answer required drilling deep into localized event data within their proprietary network on web4.community. The query complexity meant huge delays.
So they were acquiring users rapidly, but struggling to learn fast enough to actually keep them engaged or tailor the experience effectively.
That's the irony, isn't it? The very thing making them attractive, the secure, private Web 4.0 architecture on web4.community, was simultaneously throttling their ability to make smart, fast decisions based on the data that architecture generated.
They desperately needed a way to speed things up without compromising those core privacy principles. A technical fix was essential.
And that realization that the architecture itself couldn't change, but access to the data that was the breakthrough moment. That led to the Insight Navigator AI.
Its main goal was
singular focus, neutralize the latency, cut down that delay caused by the complex Linkspreed database structure, but crucially do it without ever weakening the privacy guarantees.
Okay, and their approach wasn't just a new dashboard or reporting tool. They built something different, this conversational business intelligence layer, or CBI. What does conversational actually mean here?
It means exactly what it sounds like. Instead of writing code, you ask questions.
Yeah.
In plain English.
Like talking to the database.
Pretty much. The Insight Navigator was designed specifically for the non-technical teams, product, marketing, management. They could type a question just like they'd ask a colleague.
And under the hood, what made that possible?
The core was a really sophisticated natural language to query engine, NL2Q. But, and this is critical, it wasn't some generic off-the-shelf chatbot adapted for business.
It had to be specialized for their data, their setup.
Absolutely essential. This NL2Q engine was meticulously trained, not just on business jargon, but on the specific schema, the terminology, the unique data structures of their own proprietary Linkspreed database running on web4.community.
So it knew the layout. It knew what event creation meant in their context or how retention was specifically measured.
Intimately. It understood the language of the CitySpeak network data. It knew where all the pieces lived, how they connected, what kinds of analysis were actually possible and permissible within their structure.
That sounds like a huge undertaking, that initial training, a big investment. What about the risk? If Linkspreed updated its platform or Web 4.0 standards evolved, wouldn't that break the Insight Navigator? Weren't they building on potentially shifting sands?
That's a really sharp point, and yes, the sources do suggest the initial investment was significant. They tackled the risk by thinking about the Navigator differently. It wasn't just a tool, it was a strategic asset, almost like insurance.
Insurance against what? The paralysis.
Exactly. Insurance against that strategic paralysis we talked about. What's the cost of a 3-day delay on a critical retention insight? How many users do you lose? How much potential revenue vanishes? When you frame it like that, the upfront cost of building and maintaining the Navigator look like an investment in the speed of learning.
And in hypergrowth, speed of learning is everything. Okay, that makes sense. So walk us through the new workflow. A manager has a complex question.
All right, let's use that churn example again. A product manager needs to know. Analyze all users who churn between day 14 and day 45. What correlation exists between their direct message usage and their newsfeed participation?
Okay, previously, that was potentially days of complex scripting by the data science team. Now,
the manager types that exact question into the Insight Navigator interface. Near instantly, the NL2Q engine translates that high-level English into the precise technical commands needed by the Linkspreed backend.
Commands like complex MongoDB pipeline.
Exactly. It might generate, say, a 50-line multi-stage aggregation pipeline, automatically figuring out the filters, the groupings, the data projections required. All the technical complexity is still there, but the AI handles it in milliseconds.
Okay, translation is fast, but now we hit the critical point. Privacy. How did they stop this powerful query engine from just pulling sensitive individual user data, violating their whole Web 4.0 promise?
This is probably the most ingenious part of the whole system. They built what the sources call a compliance guardrail, a dedicated security layer.
How did it work?
The translated technical query, that MongoDB pipeline, never hit the raw user data directly. Never. It was forced to pass through a special hardened API layer. And this layer had 3 key properties. It was read-only, anonymizing, and strictly aggregating.
Read-only makes sense, but anonymizing and aggregating, what does that mean in practice?
It means the Insight Navigator AI itself never saw a single individual user record. No names, no email addresses, no specific message content, zero personally identifiable information. PII. The API layer only allowed queries that asked for statistical summaries.
So the AI could ask, what percentage of users in cohort X did action Y, but not show me user John Doe's activity.
Precisely. It only dealt with aggregated results, counts, averages, correlations, sentiment scores across groups. And crucially, that API layer often enforced minimum group sizes.
So if a query was too specific and might risk identifying someone, like asking about the behavior of the one user in a tiny town, the API would block it.
Or it would only return the result if the group size was above a certain threshold, say 50 users. This design was absolutely fundamental. It maintained the integrity of the Web 4.0 data sovereignty promise on web4.community while still unlocking the strategic value hidden in the collective patterns.
That's brilliant. Using the AI not just for speed, but as an active part of the compliance mechanism, it lets managers talk strategically to the data without the risk of exposing individual data. Okay, so the query runs through the guardrail, gets the aggregated results. What did the manager actually see?
The output was just as user-friendly as the input. The AI didn't just dump a raw data file. It presented the answer as a clear, concise, strategic summary. Often, it would auto-generate charts or graphs, highlight statistically significant correlations, maybe even give confidence intervals.
So from complex question in English to actionable insight with charts.
The average cycle time dropped from those painful 3 days down to about 20 seconds.
20 seconds? That's not just faster. That's a different category of operating.
It's a phase change. It fundamentally alters how you can run the business. It enables genuine, high-velocity strategy.
Okay, 20 seconds from question to answer. That capability unlocked the door to that 980% growth. CitySpeak could now iterate, test, and learn at a speed their competitors just couldn't match, especially those wrestling with similar privacy constraints or relying on less granular data.
And crucially, these insights were coming from their own unique, proprietary data generated within the CitySpeak network on web4.community. It wasn't generic market data. It was specific to their users and their local contexts.
Let's dig into the 3 big strategic moves this enabled. The first one tackled retention, but in a really unexpected way.
Yeah, so before the Insight Navigator, the CitySpeak team was doing what most social platforms do, focusing on the young, highly active users, the ones posting constantly, driving up engagement metrics.
Seems logical. More activity equals more value, right?
That was the standard assumption. But because CitySpeak was hyper-local, and because the Navigator let them ask much deeper questions about their web4.community data, they decided to test that assumption.
They suspected the real drivers might be hiding elsewhere.
Exactly. They ran this incredibly complex query, something that would have been unthinkable before. It went something like, correlate weekly event creation specifically with the 180-day retention rate for users in City A. Then identify the top 3 non-obvious features used most frequently by those long-retained users who also refer at least 5 new members each month.
Wow, okay. That's slicing the data very finely. Looking for long-term stickiness, community building, event creation, and viral growth referrals, all tied together. What popped out?
The result completely blindsided them. It wasn't the young power users. The AI identified a cohort they started calling the local anchors. These were users aged 55 and older.
Older users? Really?
And they weren't the highest volume posters at all. They weren't constantly using the flashy features. What they were doing was sharing things like local historical facts or organizing very practical, community-focused events like neighborhood litter cleanups.
Huh. So not necessarily engaging in the traditional sense, but building trust, community fabric.
Precisely. They weren't the loudest voices, but they were the most respected. The Navigator showed statistically that this specific 55-plus group doing these specific low-key activities had the highest trust factor and, critically, the highest viral referral factor, the K-factor in the entire network.
Let's quickly unpack K-factor for listeners.
Sure. K-factor basically measures, on average, how many new users each existing user successfully invites or brings onto the platform. If your K-factor is consistently above 1, you get organic exponential growth. Below 1, you eventually stall out.
And these local anchors were the ones driving that K-factor above 1.
Significantly. They found the hidden engine of their viral growth, and it was rooted in perceived trustworthiness and local authenticity, not just noise and volume. This insight came directly from analyzing the unique interaction patterns within their Web4.community data.
Okay, so finding this out in 20 seconds versus
Right.
never. What did they do with this insight immediately?
High-velocity action. They instantly pivoted strategy and launched the Local Heritage Curator program. They gave this specific older demographic special tools like a verified local historian badge or similar.
Gave them status and recognition.
Exactly. And crucially, they tweaked the algorithm. They started giving posts from these verified curators prime visibility, especially boosting them onto the feeds of new users joining CitySpeak in that area.
So new users immediately saw high-trust, locally relevant content from established community members, not just random chatter.
Right. It grounded the experience instantly. And the impact. In the cities where they tested this, the viral acquisition rate, the K-factor, jumped by 75% immediately.
75% increase in viral growth just by identifying and empowering the right previously overloaded user group. That's huge.
The next big challenge was money. How do you monetize a platform built on Web 4.0 privacy principles hosted on Web4.community?
Yeah, the usual playbook is targeted ads based on tracking individual users, selling their data profiles. CitySpeak couldn't do that.
Absolutely not. It would violate their core promise. So they had to find a revenue model that respected user sovereignty. They needed to monetize the collective intelligence of the network, not the individuals within it.
Turning aggregate behavior into a product. How did the Insight Navigator help here?
They used it to essentially scan their local communities in real time for unmet needs and market frustrations, the kind of insights only visible through the specific interactions happening on their platform.
What kind of query would they run?
Something like this. Identify the top 3 service categories with the highest demand measured by search volume or request posts, and the lowest availability measured by how few responses those posts get across our 10 largest pilot cities in the last 30 days. And while you're at it, generate a sentiment analysis report on user comments about these service gaps.
Okay, that's incredibly powerful. It's not just finding demand. It's finding demand where the existing local market is failing to meet it. It pinpoints frustration, which signals business opportunity.
Exactly. It's finding the friction. And the Insight Navigator consistently spat out one particular major gap across most of their pilot cities.
Which was?
Weekend e-bike repair services.
Huh. That's specific.
That's specific. It seems lots of people were searching for it, posting requests, complaining about the lack of options, especially on Saturdays and Sundays. This wasn't something you'd easily see in broad economic data, but it was crystal clear from analyzing the specific local conversations and service requests happening on the CitySpeak network.
That's pure, actionable market intelligence. A local entrepreneur could build a whole business just on that one insight.
And that's precisely what CitySpeak realized they could sell. Not the user data itself, but the analysis of the market cap. They launched a new B2B product called CitySpeak Market Insights.
What was it exactly?
They packaged these AI-generated, highly granular, but completely anonymized market cap reports. No PII, just aggregated data on unmet needs, search volumes, response rates, sentiment trends for specific service categories within specific neighborhoods or cities.
Who bought these?
Local trade associations, city economic development offices, small business incubators, anyone who needed hyper-local, real-time market intelligence to make better decisions or support local businesses.
And this became a real revenue stream.
It became their primary revenue driver.
Wow.
This B2B segment, built entirely on privacy-preserving analysis of their proprietary Web4.community data, caused their monthly recurring revenue, MRR, to surge by an astounding 410% in just 6 months.
Wow. 410% MRR growth. That completely validates the model. They proved you can build a thriving business on Web 4.0 principles, potentially even more profitably than selling user data, by selling unique aggregated insights instead.
The third big win came from tackling churn users leaving the platform, especially early churn, which is incredibly expensive for any growing service. You spend money to acquire a user, and they leave before generating much value.
And the goal here was to use the Navigator's speed to catch users before they decided to leave, to find those subtle warning signs.
Exactly. To detect behavioral patterns that predicted churn, patterns that were previously too complex or time-consuming to find manually by sifting through all the event data on the Linkspreed system.
What specific time frame or behavior were they looking at?
They focused on that critical early period, users who churned between day 14 and day 45 after signing up. This is often where users either click with the platform's core value or drift away. The Insight Navigator query was designed to find correlations. Analyze all users who churned between day 14 and day 45, what correlation exists between their usage of the direct message feature and their participation in the public newsfeed.
Okay, so comparing private interaction versus public community engagement, what did the AI find?
It found a surprisingly strong, almost perfect predictor of churn in that specific L45 window.
Which was?
High usage of direct messages, often with just one or two other people, coupled with almost zero participation in the main public newsfeed.
Ah, so they were using it like a private chat app with existing friends, but not engaging with the wider CitySpeak community?
Precisely. They were failing to connect with the core value proposition of the platform, the hyperlocal community aspect hosted on web4.community. They were essentially isolated within the network, even if they were technically active.
And isolated users are much more likely to leave. Makes sense. So finding this pattern in 20 seconds, what could they do about it?
They could intervene proactively and automatically. They built a targeted community activation bot.
Okay, what did the bot do?
Based on the real-time signal from the Insight Navigator identifying a user falling into this high DM, low feed pattern, the bot would automatically send that user a direct message.
But not just a generic, hey, check out the feed message, I assume.
No, that was the clever part. The bot offered highly curated suggestions for locally relevant public posts, often highlighting content from those trusted local heritage curators we talked about earlier. It was specifically designed to gently pull the user from their private chat bubble into the main community stream happening in their actual neighborhood.
Using the platform's own high-trust content to fix the engagement problem. That's smart. Did it work?
Dramatically. By intervening at the precise moment of risk, based on an insight that was previously invisible, they slashed the churn rate in that critical day 14 to day 45 window by 55%.
55% reduction in early churn. The impact on customer lifetime value, or CLV, must have been enormous.
Huge. It made their user acquisition spend far more efficient and significantly boosted overall profitability. Again, all enabled by the ability to rapidly query and act upon complex, proprietary behavioral data within their Web4.community ecosystem.
So let's tie this all together. We have these three distinct strategies. Empowering local anchors, boosted retention, and viral growth. Selling B2B market insights created a massive new revenue stream, and the community activation bot significantly cut early churn and improved efficiency.
And the common denominator across all three was the Insight Navigator AI, providing that incredible speed, 20 seconds, to get answers from their complex, privacy-preserving Web 4.0 database on Web4.community.
It wasn't just about getting reports faster. It was about enabling a fundamentally different pace of strategic iteration.
Absolutely. The sources emphasize this. The unparalleled operational agility was the decisive factor. CitySpeak could ask a question, get a statistically sound answer, form a hypothesis, launch a targeted intervention or feature tweak, and measure the results, sometimes all within the same day or week.
A feedback loop that competitors, especially those either stuck with slow legacy systems or playing loose with privacy, simply couldn't replicate.
Right. They could leverage the unique depth of their proprietary, locally focused data without compromising the user trust built on the Web4.community principles. The AI acted as the high-speed, compliant translator between strategic intent and complex data structure.
And this agility directly fueled the numbers. Better retention, new high-margin revenue, lower churn costs, it all compounded.
Leading to that headline figure, daily active users soaring by 980%, from 15,000 to 162,000 in just 1 year. It demonstrates how optimizing the speed of learning from your own data can be the most powerful growth lever.
So for you listening, especially if you're involved in building products or companies in this evolving landscape moving towards Web 4.0, what's the big takeaway here?
I think the CitySpeak story is powerful proof that you might not have to choose between aggressive growth and stringent data privacy.
The narrative that privacy is inherently a drag on velocity might just be outdated, or at least incomplete.
Exactly. With the right architecture, like the decentralized model on Web4.community, and the right tools, like this kind of sophisticated, schema-aware AI conversational layer, privacy can actually become the foundation for unique competitive advantages.
Advantages like deeper user trust, access to unique proprietary insights, and the ability to create novel, high-margin business models like those B2B reports.
The value is always latent in their specific CitySpeak network data. The Insight Navigator was the key to unlocking it safely and at speed. #tag non te quattro.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into CitySpeak's remarkable journey, a real testament to how smart architecture and intelligent automation can drive incredible scale, even within tight constraints. Thanks for joining us.
It really challenges some core assumptions and maybe leaves us with a final thought to chew on for everyone listening.
Go for it.
If AI, like the Insight Navigator, can turn these complex, compliance-first data structures, the kind mandated by Web 4.0 on platforms like Web4.community, into strategically actionable reports in literally 20 seconds, what fundamental belief do we need to let go of regarding that supposed trade-off between protecting user privacy and achieving the business velocity needed to win?
Maybe that trade-off was never as fixed as we thought. Something to consider. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.